Hi guys, I know so many of you are out there just wondering how do you get started in real estate investing because it can be very intimidating and taking that very first step can feel like you're diving off a cliff. Well, first off, I felt the same thing, just so you know. Now, it wasn't any one single thing that helped me make the leap, but in this video, I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple different things that kind of came together for me and some of the things that I had to do to overcome those doubts that I had in my head about real estate investing, about the risk, about fear of losing my money, fear of failing, fear of wasting my time, all of those types of things. Just to give you a brief introduction, my name is Ryan Chaw. I'm a pharmacist who invested in real estate on the side, and I was able to build a portfolio that made multiple six-figure income, and that income was actually able to replace my pharmacy salary at the age of 31. I was actually inspired to get into real estate from my grandpa. He was buying these properties in the San Francisco Bay Area back in the 50s. Back then, there was a lot of prejudice against Chinese immigrants, so he had a lot of doors slammed in his face until he finally found a seller who was willing to sell him a set of flats in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, back then, it was dirt cheap, so he was able to purchase them for in the $100,000 range or so. And the investment went up 30 to 35 times the original price of the property. And not only was he supported by the rental income from that property, he was also able to supplement part of my college education and that of my brothers as well. And so this is something I didn't take for granted. And I realized that real estate is one of the best ways to create generational wealth. So obviously I had a strong role model, but I still had these doubts in my mind if I could do it myself. It's one thing for somebody else to do it, but then when it comes to yourself, it seems a lot different for some reason. So for me, what really made that difference and made me decide to take the leap was I actually had this argument with my dad. I would basically come home from work every day and say, this is the week that I'm going to go ahead and buy my first rental. I am going to do it. There's nothing stopping me. And then for some reason, I just chicken out. And my dad said, you're talking about buying houses all the time, but you're not actually taking the steps to buy one. And it was at that moment that I realized, well, he was right. I was afraid of buying that first house. And I had a right to be fearful, obviously, because there was a lot I didn't know about it. And that was my brain telling me, hey, maybe you should watch out because if you go buy your first rental and you don't have any knowledge about how to do it, something bad could happen. However, on the flip side, if I never buy my first rental, how am I ever going to gain the experience that I need to scale and become a successful real estate investor with several different rentals? So it was at that moment when my dad confronted me that I was forced to essentially corner that fear. And I was like, okay, Ryan, you either do this or you don't. And you're never really going to be in a position where it's going to be much easier for you or much better for you. So why don't you just take that leap? And so that's how I got started. Now, not everyone is going to have a father that confronts them and basically tell them that what you're spouting out now is a bunch of BS. You're not actually doing anything, not taking any action towards your goals. And I'm incredibly grateful to have that happen to me. What I realized, however, is I didn't need a father to confront me on this. I essentially, at the end of the day, I confronted myself. I confronted and cornered my own fear. So for you, if you are stuck in this analysis paralysis stage, or stuck in the stage where you're just afraid to get started, my advice would be ask yourself this. If I continued along my journey and did nothing and I continued to procrastinate and never bought my first rental, where would I end up? Would I be happy? And what some people are looking for in real estate is something to show for all of the hard work that they put into their job. For me, I worked the long hours and I wanted something to show for all the hours that I put in. I basically had this rental that made income, and it's something that I could pass on to my children as well. So maybe that's your motivation, maybe it's not. In any case, what I would recommend if you're kind of on the edge, teetering on whether you should get started in real estate investing or not, what you should do is study successful real estate investors, because that's what I did and it really helped me. A couple of ones out there are Gary Keller, Robert Kiyosaki, and Brandon Turner. Gary Keller has this book called Millionaire Real Estate Investor, which I highly recommend you read if you're just getting started. And Robert Kiyosaki has a famous one called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is about real estate, but it's also about financial freedom. And then we finally have Brandon Turner, who wrote I think it's called The Book on Rental Investing, which is a basic how to get started in real estate investing so that you get some of the knowledge ahead of time and at least know some of the things to watch out for. Now, you might be asking at this point, what doubts did I have when getting started in real estate investing? And how did I reach that point where I eventually had a multiple six-figure income with multiple properties and be able to leave job as a pharmacist? So a couple fears that I had, and you potentially have as well, is fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of losing your money, fear of wasting your time. Now, we're only going to go over the first two on this video, just for brevity's sake. But if you're very interested in learning more about the other fears, you can leave a comment down below and say, hey, Ryan, I'm interested in another video about specifically some of the other fears around real estate investing. So let's go ahead and start with fear of rejection. And the key to a lot of these fears is it's very important to make what we call a mindset shift or a reframe. This is essentially clearing your mind of irrational beliefs and replacing them with beliefs that are a little bit more believable and are more true compared to your irrational beliefs. The first mindset shift I want to create is for the fear of rejection. So a lot of people, when they get into it, they're like, oh, what if I'm rejected? What if my offer is not accepted? What will I do? Where do I go from there? I had a client who, on the very first loan that they were trying to get for a property, they were rejected by the lender because their finances weren't in the spot that the lender wanted them to be in. Now, what I said to her is this. Imagine you are shopping at a store and you're trying to find this product and the product is out of stock. You're not going to go, oh my God, the product's not in stock. Oh, this is so horrible. I should have bought earlier. Oh my God, I messed up. I'm a horrible person. That type of stuff. No, you don't do that. And that's because we're not really assigning any meaning to a product being out of stock. The solution to that is essentially just shop around at another store and find one that does have the product in shop. And so for her, I recommended to her the same thing because she was getting down on, oh my God, my finances must be horrible. I can't even buy a house because I got rejected by this one lender. And so I told her, just treat it like a product was out of stock. They don't have the product for you. Maybe they don't have a product for somebody with a lower credit score, or maybe somebody who has a certain amount of debt or whatever, right? But there's always going to be somebody out there who has the product for you. And so in real estate, as in most businesses, you have to go through a lot of no's before you get a yes. And same thing for a product being out of stock. The product is out there somewhere. Like you'll be able to find it if it exists, right? If you found it online or whatever and it exists, then it's just a matter of time before you find somebody who's willing to sell you that product. And so what does this mean? I might have to go through 5, 10, 15 different stores in order to find that product, but eventually somebody's going to have it in stock. It's the same thing for lenders. Somebody has the product that you're looking for in stock, but you just have to go through a couple of lenders. And what helps is if you don't catastrophize the situation and assign meaning to it. It just means that they don't have your product, right? And so what we naturally do is we assign meaning to things that we really shouldn't be assigning meaning to. For example, let's say you met somebody in high school at the lunch table and you said hi to them, but they didn't say hi back. Well, you could have interpreted this as, oh my God, there must be something wrong with me. Is there something on my face? Oh my gosh, am I just not a person worthy of talking to? And so you assign these kind of irrational beliefs to it versus, let's say that person is just very shy, or they just had a bad day, or maybe they didn't hear you. And you basically created all these meanings behind why they didn't talk to you when it could have been something totally different. And it probably was something totally different. I mean, let's be real. They're not talking to you just because there's something wrong with you, most likely. It's probably something on their side. It's really important to shift your belief system so that you don't fear rejection, and that when you get a no, you continue checking out different lenders or continue checking out different properties to put offers on until you get a yes on that loan or that property that you're putting an offer on. Now, let's talk about the other common fear that you probably have, which is the fear of failure. Now, I would say the fear of failure usually comes from something that happened to you or somebody else. Maybe you know a real estate investor who lost a lot of money. Maybe something happened to you in the past where you made a mistake and it cost you money, or you failed at something and you just decided to give up. That's where the fear of failure usually comes from. This reframe's a little bit trickier because you have anecdotal evidence that people can fail. So you can't just say, oh, I'm not going to fail, because there are people who fail, obviously. What I do instead is I roll with the punches. And so for me, this happened when the pandemic hit. I was very afraid that I was going to lose all of my tenants because I rent out to college students, and colleges all went online for their instruction. And so I had a lot of students who are like, hey, classes are online. Can I cancel my lease? So I had about 30 students at the time, and I was really panicking because I think about half of them said that they wanted to cancel the lease. And I didn't want to be a bad person. So I basically had to roll with the punches. And first off, I panicked. I had a lot of fear. I almost had a little bit of a nervous breakdown. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I did a couple things. First, I confronted the fear. I said, look, I could worry about this all day, but it's not going to make it any better. And there's a saying out there that if you have time to worry, you have time to work. And so I decided, okay, am I going to sit here and worry about it? Or am I going to find a solution to this problem? Or am I going to step up and find a way to make this happen? And so what's really important is for a new situation, you want to approach it with an experimental or scientific mindset. And what I mean by that is you want to basically test certain things. And so for me, what I did is set up a hypothesis, which was that if I reach out to more students and talk to them one-on-one, there's probably a higher likelihood that they would want to stay at my place because I created that connection. And so what I did is I called up all of my current students and I said, hey, I know this pandemic is going on. I know it's really stressful on you. And I asked them, do they want to stay at the house with some of their friends and use that time to be able to study together at the house and learn the classes together versus go back home and stay with their parents? Some people, they told me that staying at home with their parents is kind of a chaotic environment. They're not able to study. And so they said to me that they prefer actually staying at my house. And if I could offer a discount, it's a win-win situation for both of us. I would say at least 2/3 to 3/4 of the people I called ended up staying. And from there, what I did was I just boosted my marketing channels. I went onto Facebook groups, Craigslist, YouLoop. There's a lot of different housing websites out there like apartments.com. I talked to some of the school coaches and I asked them, hey, do you have anybody on your tennis team that's looking for housing? And I just did all this outreach and I was able to get 100% occupancy during that whole COVID period, just because I learned to roll with the punches, as I said earlier. And so what's really important for the fear of failure is to realize that failure is okay as long as you find a way around it, as long as you find a solution to it, because you never ultimately fail until you quit. So all of these small failures are really just learning opportunities. That might sound a little woo-woo and stuff, but honestly, that's what it is. Every time I encounter a challenge, I learn from it. And I actually appreciate my failures because I learn from them and it allows me to be a better real estate investor in the long run. And I'm in it for the long game. I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. Please remember, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe and share it with your friends or somebody else who might be struggling with taking that very first step into real estate investing. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.